Hello, everybody, and welcome to the September 4th, 2018 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. Now, today, Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump's next choice for the Supreme Court to fill the seat of Anthony Kennedy, confirmation hearings have started in the United States Senate. Now, I just want to say this. Brett Kavanaugh is not literally the worst person ever. I know that's a very good accomplishment. Round of applause for Brett Kavanaugh. However, I'm being kind of serious. He seems to be more moderate in some issues, and I'll take him over who he could have picked. I mean, even ignoring the people he was put in front of, I may pick this, like Amy, whatever her name was, I already forgot. You know, there were people who were obviously kind of getting pressured by his administration and were popular in those conservative movements. You know, people like Jay Sekulow or Ben Shapiro or Ann Coulter. My only response is I'll give him credit for not being literally the worst. And I'll give Donnie credit for not literally picking the worst. In fact, to Kavanaugh's credit, he actually said in his original confirmation hearing to become a member of a district court back in the 2000s that he will actually support the precedent set by Roe v. Wade. I seem to be the only one who read that part, though. Now, don't get me wrong, Brett Kavanaugh is also doing this "I believe in spirit of the law" crap, which is essentially a fancy way of saying it means whatever I want. It is the sort of thinking that led, say, Scalia to say torture was constitutional because 24. I'm not kidding, that happened. Now, of course, mind you, there are a lot of protests specifically over the issue of abortion. There were many liberals, for instance, who went to the hearing dressed as characters from The Handmaid's Tale, as well as Planned Parenthood releasing an ad the same day the hearing started. However, I don't know how I think about those. Again, I need to see how Kavanaugh is actually going to vote, because if there's one thing I've learned is, and call me a little crazy, but Republicans don't typically follow through on their promises. I know, it's a little revelation I had last week. However, that didn't stop many other Republicans somewhat acknowledging that themselves and writing think pieces about how great Brett Kavanaugh is because he'll end abortion, I think. Hence, in honor of the fact it's actually been a while since I've done an episode just responding to an article, I figured I'd do that. As such, this is an article I found on Townhall recently, which, if you don't remember, is one of the farthest right sites on the internet. It's not even really a news site. It's openly just a nice editorial site. But anyway, this was written by a woman named Kateri Remens. Never heard of her, I hadn't either. But apparently she's the president of some school out there's division of the Students for Life. Let's just read. The nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court is one of the more major political events since the election of Donald Trump since 2016. Not really, but okay. And for good reason. Kavanaugh has the ability to shape, and Townhall ads just keep popping up, by the way, so I'm clicking off, that's why. The Supreme Court for years by joining 4 other conservative, good to know you admit they aren't constitutional. So remember that argument? They were constitutional originalists. Just like Scalia, who let his opinion be overwritten by 24. I'm not getting over that. Supreme Court justices. As a college student, student for life leader, and a resident of Illinois, I can tell you that my generation supports Kavanaugh and what he stands for. That's a bit of a declarative statement. I mean, maybe a lot of people in your generation do, but I guarantee you there are still pro-choice people within your generation. For that matter, can I just point out that calling yourself a student for life instead of just a pro-lifer is kind of pointless if your idea was actually valid? Why does it matter how old you are when you're pro-life? Your idea is exactly as valid if you say it when you're 8 years old and if you say it when you're 80 years old. The answer is, by the way, still not very valid. Many would have you believe that young people like me are not interested in politics. Well, typically they aren't. Or if we are interested in politics, that we are all liberals and support Bernie Sanders. You mean the most popular politician in the country? I don't know where anyone will get the idea. But that is not true. In fact, this generation is also called the pro-life generation. You could actually theoretically be a pro-lifer and still support Sanders, since most of his ideas were economic. I mean, he is obviously pro-choice, but unless that's really your only issue, I'm nitpicking. And even among young Democratic voters, there is support for abortion restrictions, such as a 20-week abortion ban. Many of us care about our society and want to foster a culture that respects life at all stages. Hey, here's a question. Miss, I already forget your name. When was the last time you had a burger recently? I remember I saw this live action tweet today. And if you follow my Twitter at Ephrom Josine, you saw this, where they were like, "Oh my God, society hates animal cruelty but loves abortion." And then I just replied with, I literally Googled ads for meat and found enough to fill up a tweet. If I kept going, I could probably fill up like 5. Say everything you will at Planned Parenthood, but as far as I'm aware, they've never had fetal tissue be a snack. Anyway, the guy or girl goes on to talk about how, "Oh, my generation agrees with me," as if that makes her position valid. But, okay. I personally am motivated to take action as a leader in the diverse pro-life movement because I have seen women close to me suffer from judgmental eyes and pressure of society. I thought you just said the majority of your generation was pro-life. Who's judging them for not getting an abortion? I have seen women disenfranchised by the unfortunately common belief that women cannot multitask, combining home and family with passion and a dream and a career. Okay, so we'll say this person, because I checked, I couldn't find a Wikipedia page on her. We'll say she's about 20. Now, I personally have heard stories that involve 13-year-olds getting abortions, not because they were raped, but because they had sex with someone who, for the record, they were cheating on someone they were currently dating with. I read this story somewhere. I've had friends tell me similar stories of this for years. People I've known in real life said stories like this for years. And didn't tell the person she was dating until she graduated middle school. Do you think that woman was able, or that girl, was able to understand what she was doing when she had sex? And if so, I have to ask, why do you believe there should be an age of consent? I personally think age of consent should exist because some people can't understand. I think that's fair. However, we as a society must also understand that when people don't understand something, they make mistakes with it. I think that's just a common sense belief, but okay. Unless you honestly think 13-year-olds are able to be mothers. I am willing to stand up as a woman and a student, there's more identity politics, to show women that there are many life-affirming organizations and people willing to support them with the dignity everyone deserves. I have found that an important way to show women this support is through political activism. Recently, many of my oh God, it just keeps going. Recently, many of my fellow Students for Life leaders gave up a week of their summer, oh my God, that's a big thing right there, to travel across several states, including Missouri and Indiana, not Missouri and Indiana, to push for the confirmation of Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Some even traveled from Houston to Missouri or from Nevada to Alaska. Why Alaska? Just for the opportunity to play a role in Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to organize a rally along with other pro-life leaders in Illinois at the Federal Plaza on August 11th to urge Senator Durbin and Duckworth to vote to confirm Kavanaugh, and why others rallied Sunday in downtown Chicago. Have you got to the point where you explain why the pro-life position is the right one? Are we at that point yet? Why would young people be interested in a Supreme Court fight? Because we understand what is at stake. Our lives and political system have been influenced by a 1973 court decision that essentially told voters of each state that their opinion on abortion did not matter. Actually, that was a 1790s Supreme Court decision that said that federal law overrides state law. And even then, I'm sick of this lie that states have no power to regulate abortion. Ohio just tried to get a heartbeat bill passed that would ban abortion at 6 weeks. Iowa just tried to make it so life supposedly begins at conception. You are lying if you think states can't. Also, the individual voter doesn't matter. The representatives the individual voter elects matter. Again, I'm nitpicking, I know, but just everything about this annoys me. It took away from their right to debate the proper regulation and restriction on abortion. Downright lie. While tainting other political issues with the pollution of Roe v. Wade. They then go on to talk about a case they won, for the record. That being the, I have no clue how to pronounce that, NIFLA versus Barica case. Which, again, they won. And on college campuses, we see the effects of abortion every day. We see it in college campuses, you just said that want to offer free RU486 abortion drugs, but don't have adequate lactation rooms for women who choose life for their babies. It's almost like 18 through 22-year-olds don't typically have children. We see it in colleges that eagerly offer sex week events and free birth control, but punish a parenting student for not being able to attend classes in person. Okay, a few things. Most notably, yeah, that makes sense, because when you can't attend a class in person, you typically should not be taking a class. You cannot expect society to revolve around you just because you're a pro-lifer. I'd actually like to borrow a idea, if you will, from your movement. If you're a college student and you don't want to deal with the stigma of choosing life, which is really just a fancy way of saying, I was irresponsible, then may I recommend just not having sex? Is that a possibility? If you're a pro-lifer on a college campus? I mean, we allow abstinence-only funding for years with that message. Why can't pro-lifers do it? Our society has normalized abortion to the point that students are looked down upon. A friend of mine who was pregnant on campus for choosing life and jeopardizing her future dreams and aspirations. So why does this generation support Kavanaugh? Because you don't know his positions. Because he offers a real opportunity to move away from the pollution of Roe v. Wade. So just overturn any laws you don't like. By allowing states to have a say in how abortion is regulated, they already do, and limited in their own states. My fellow young leaders understand this, which is why over 20 of this woman just doesn't have anything left to say. That's it. I'm done. I'm Ephrom, and good night.